Hey folks, walk with me. If you're unfamiliar, I started this channel not to cover stock videos, but I got my first sort of legs, if you will, as a stock video maker. So I covered a lot of stocks, and this was back when like AMC and GameStop were blowing up, and there was all this attention around like short squeeze and Citadel and all this jazz. But in any case, where I kind of found my first bit of sustained success, if we could call it that, this is all very relative. Remember, this is not relative to like actual huge YouTube channels out there, or even like moderately successful YouTube channels out there. But where I found some initial success for me was covering SoFi. And SoFi is now a publicly traded company, but SoFi went through something called a SPAC and then was de-SPACed. And essentially this is a SPAC is a ticker symbol that's set up, publicly traded, often has a $10 floor, and so folks are buying it at an initial sort of like secured value of $10 a share, and then the firm or the person behind the SPAC is supposed to find a target company to take public, and then they just like take it public and make a ticker symbol change from whatever the SPAC's symbol was to whatever the company's symbol is. And it's, sort of a way for companies who, in all honesty, probably have little to no business going public to go public. At least that's what I've come to mostly believe at this point. I'm still a big fan of SoFi, and I still make videos on it. But there's one player in particular who was involved in the SoFi de-SPACing, and his name is Chamath Palihapitiya. And Chamath, I think he's ex-Facebook? I think that's right. But in any case, he had this idea where when the concept of just sort of going full tilt with SPACs have been around for quite a while. So this wasn't like the launch of them or something, but they got all these legs when crypto, NFTs were blowing up. Like I said, AMC, GameStop, when just like everything got super bubbly, and folks were just throwing money into everything. Chamath had this idea, as far as I understand it at least, that he was going to go and just name things alphabetically. IPOA, IPOB, IPOC. Okay, and so he had IPOA through IPOF. IPOE is what SoFi was. IPOs D and F, going off of memory here, I don't think that they ever acquired a target and actually de-SPACed anyone. I think they just dissolved. And IPOs A, B, C, and E actually did go through the process. Now, I guess hearkening back to the first thing that I said, which is taking companies public that probably have no business actually going public, at least at the time that they do. I'm quite curious about what all of the intricacies are. Now that we're like a couple of years beyond that, like being in the middle of all of these IPO A through F, and as far as I know, Chamath is not doing any additional SPACs at the moment, but I could be totally wrong on that. I'd be curious to see what sort of like the post-mortem on the whole situation was, and see where the money landed, who got paid no matter whether these companies that were brought public, whether they went to $1 something a share or if they had some success. I don't think any of them were tremendously successful. Again, going off the top of my head, I think maybe one of them is having mild success at the moment. And others are sort of basement dwellers at best. But it would be interesting to see sort of in the world of, I'm thinking of the crypto situation recently, thinking about like Haktua and like the rug pull, and that's like just become a thing that happens. I guess my question is, was this sort of a rug pull equivalent, just in a slightly different financial realm, the realm of SPAC, de-SPAC, and who gets paid out, how they make their money, and if they actually have incentives to work in the best interest of the public investor, the retail investor, or not, even if they're supposed to, right? But is that actually what happened? And what sort of proof is there out there? What historical timelines and money trail can be shown to support, yes, it was a sucky situation, but they did the best that they could, all well-intentioned, and here's what happened? Or do we find something that looks shockingly more like a rug pull in crypto? At least from the nuts and bolts of it, in terms of who gets to cash out and who gets stuck. And who has all of the inside info that is, is different enough from the real info, the info that the public is presented with, right? Who has the real info, the inside info that is different than what's presented to the public, that creates enough of a distortion there where insiders are able to get out, not even unscathed, but with clear, significant profits. And they're making those profits on the back of the investors that end up holding the bag. And are there reasons there that happens in a way that it's not just like, yeah, it was a crappy situation and that's how it turned out? Is there proof, or are there instances where it happened because there was withholding of information, misrepresentation of information, some form of just, I don't want to say illegal, but maybe even just unethical formation of how the structure would work? I don't know, but I would be interested if Coffeezilla would consider taking this story up. And maybe it's something where it's like, hey, here's a weird thing that was happening for a few years, but all was well-intentioned and it fell apart, and here's the details, right? Like, here's the receipts. From insider info to public info to money trail. Like, this is just what happened. There's nothing really more to the story here. Fine, cool. It just helps to know moving forward, right, who you can trust, what you can believe, and then, of course, signs you can look for. If there were things that weren't seemingly on the up and up, what were they? Because it's hard to know what to look for if you don't know how these things can roll out in a sideways sort of fashion. I think that's becoming more and more clear with crypto, meme coins, rug pulls, that sort of thing. Or like pump and dumps, right? Like with Atlas, and a few others that I was just about to name, but I realized they're probably, first of all, not as popular, and I don't know that there's been any sort of like proof that's come out on those folks. But in any case, now that stuff like that is more obvious, right? Atlas stuff, Hawktool, like meme coin stuff, where people get rug pulled. There's some sense of like, you have to be on the lookout for this. This is well-known information. I don't think that really exists in the world of like SPAC, de-SPAC. And I think it would be helpful because I don't think, unless the rules have significantly changed, which as far as I know they haven't, I would suspect when things get bubbly, things get frothy again, that will come back. And so I do think it would be wildly helpful to know who was trustworthy, who wasn't, and why. And I think Coffeezilla is uniquely skilled and positioned to do that. So I don't know. Here's a call to if you would do it or not. But I'd be willing to pitch in volunteer time to help gather data and info. And he's just a much better storyteller and knows what he's doing. And I definitely don't. I can gather info and I can hand it over. But he knows how to actually make sense of it and do something meaningful with it. All right, folks. Well, amplify this if you are also interested in that happening. We'll see if it gets any legs. I doubt it. But in any case, if you walked with me, we got nearly a dozen minutes in here. And if you didn't, I certainly appreciate you watching all the way through. And I will see you in the next video.